Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a seriously cool, highly strategic concept straight from the basketball court and applying it to, well, one of the most universally intimidating professional experiences out there. We're talking about the ISO play networking strategy. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed at an industry meetup or a corporate gathering, this approach is an absolute game changer. It's going to completely shift how you work a room.
So picture this, right? You've just walked through the double doors of a massive hotel ballroom. You got your name tag on, maybe a lukewarm coffee in your hand, and bam, you are immediately hit by a wall of sound. Dozens, maybe hundreds of people are clustered together, laughing, talking super fast, standing in these impenetrable circles. It is completely natural to feel a massive spike of anxiety in that exact moment. You kind of just stop in your tracks and think, how exactly do you handle these giant networking groups without just, awkwardly hovering on the outside?
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the large group dilemma, navigating the crowded room.
Before we can solve the problem, we really have to understand the friction. Large groups are just inherently loud and overwhelming. People are talking over one another, inside jokes are flying left and right, and physically standing shoulder to shoulder, it's like a closed fortress. It is incredibly difficult to interrupt a rapid-fire conversation among 5 or 6 people without feeling like you're crashing a private party. The friction to join is exceptionally high. You have to shout just to be heard, you physically wedge yourself into the circle, and the mental energy required just to say a simple hello is exhausting. It's totally a high-stakes, low-reward scenario when you try to attack the group as a whole.
Moving right along to Section 2, defining the ISO play, bringing basketball strategy to the boardroom.
Now let's take a deep breath. We're going to slow things down. Instead of throwing ourselves into that high-friction chaos we just talked about, we are going to pivot entirely. We're borrowing a highly structured strategic concept from the sports world. The ISO play networking strategy is defined as handling large groups by isolating the easiest defender to build a one-on-one connection. Look, in basketball, an isolation play, or ISO play, happens when you clear out all the messy team dynamics to let one offensive player take on one specific defender. You completely bypass the chaos of the whole team defense to focus on a single manageable matchup. And we're doing the exact same thing in the networking room. We are bypassing the impenetrable group to find the one single path of least resistance.
Section 3. Spotting the easiest defender. Identifying your target.
Now, what's really interesting here is that if our goal is to execute an isolation play, we can't just pick anyone at random. The entire success of the strategy relies on identifying who exactly represents that easiest defender. In a corporate environment, think about the stark contrast between the intimidating crowd, loud, talking, moving in packs, creating that massive high-friction zone, and your actual target. According to our source material, your easiest defender is simply someone else who isn't talking. It really is that clear-cut, and honestly, that delightfully binary.
Literally, look for someone else who isn't talking. I want to emphasize the absolute brilliance and simplicity of this. You don't need to read minds, you don't need to analyze complex body language or study micro-expressions. You are simply scanning the room or even just the outer edges of a large circle for the person whose mouth is currently closed. Why? Because the person who isn't talking is likely feeling the exact same friction you are. They are completely unengaged. They are absolutely the most strategic, accessible entry point in the entire room, just waiting for an opportunity to connect without having to shout over the rest of the crowd.
All right, moving to Section 4, the side conversation, executing the play. Let's see how this builds into a reliable 3-step playbook. Step 1, as we just thoroughly covered, is to pick out the easiest defender, the person who is not talking. Step 2 is to approach them and start a side conversation. Notice you aren't addressing the whole group or trying to seize the floor. You are subtly initiating a separate dialogue just with them. And then Step 3, that's the payoff. You use that focused side conversation to build a genuine one-on-one connection. You are effectively carving out a quiet, private space within a really loud public room.
So the absolutely crucial point here is the physical act of starting that side conversation. When you peel off to speak directly to the easiest defender, you instantly diffuse the tension of the large group. You completely remove the pressure to perform for an audience. You don't have to be the loudest or the funniest person in the circle anymore. Actually, scratch that, you just don't have to compete at all. By simply turning slightly, making eye contact with the non-talker, and initiating a quiet, side interaction, you bypass the intimidating group dynamic entirely. It sets you up for actual success.
Which brings us to Section 5, forging a true connection, the ultimate goal.
The basketball play gets you the open shot, but the connection is how you actually score the points. When we compare these two environments, the difference is just night and day. The large group remains superficial and overwhelming, but the result of your successfully executed ISO play, that one-on-one connection, is meaningful, focused, and actionable. You can actually hear what the other person does for a living, what their current professional challenges are, and figure out how you might be able to help each other. We don't isolate just to hide from the crowd. We isolate to find real, meaningful value.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core ethos of everything we've mapped out today. This quote, pulled straight from our source material, is basically the ultimate perfect summary of the ISO play. Handle large groups by picking out the easiest offender, someone else who isn't talking, and starting a side conversation to build a one-on-one connection. It's just a perfectly contained, highly effective strategy to turn a massive social obstacle into a focused winning play.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a direct challenge. The next time you walk through the double doors of a crowded, intimidating room, do not let the noise freeze you. Don't just hover awkwardly on the outside. Scan the floor. Look for the person on the sidelines. Who is going to be your easiest defender at your next event? Find them, run the ISO play, and make that connection. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.